The late night comedians admitted when he left office that we didn't do jokes about Barack Obama. They just didn't find anything worthy of joking about. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm old enough to remember a late night comedian named Johnny Carson who joked about Republican presidents and Democratic presidents, not in a mean-spirited, nasty way, but he didn't stop doing jokes because his guy was in, whoever his guy is. The late night comedians admitted they did not make jokes about Barack Obama. Every now and then I take a look at what some of the late night comics are, Kimmel and the others, and routinely jokes about Donald Trump, and not in an amusing way, in a demeaning way, in an abusive way, in a way referring to him as a Nazi and a fascist and a dictator and all the other nasty stuff that people say about him. And still, Trump's approval rating at this juncture higher than that of Barack Obama. And consider what the Media Matters people said about the coverage, ABC, NBC, CBS, not Media Matters, but Media Research Center. 95% of the coverage of Donald Trump, news coverage of Donald Trump, ABC, NBC, CBS, negative. And I haven't even talked about NPR or the New York Times or the LA Times or the various local news channels around this country. The man has been hit with a barrage of negative news, whether it's the tariffs, where's the price of eggs, which they reluctantly finally admitted was going down. Imagine where his approval ratings would be if the media were just moderately fair and moderately balanced. Even Jake Tapper on this book tour has admitted that the mainstream media are left-wing. It took a while, but he finally admitted it. Imagine where his approval ratings would be if he hadn't been dogged for 2.5 years with this Russia collusion nonsense, still believed by much of the left-wing part of this country. Imagine if he hadn't been impeached twice for ridiculous reasons. Imagine if he hadn't been accused of inciting an insurrection on January 6th. Imagine if they weren't ignoring how he said, I want you to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Imagine if he hadn't been misquoted intentionally about what he said about Charlottesville. Much of the country believes he said there were good Nazis and bad Nazis on both sides when he said nothing of the sort. He was talking, as you well know, about the debate on whether there should be a Confederate monument in the public square. Imagine if that were covered fairly. Imagine if he were not accused of mocking a disabled reporter. I told you about my encounter with the young lady that I almost knocked over, a little person who told me that she had a disability and she hated Donald Trump because Donald Trump mocked a disabled reporter, and I explained to her he did not. Imagine. And this man's approval rating is still higher than that of Barack Obama. It's pretty incredible. 2 impeachments. 2 assassination attempts. The lawfare, the lawsuit against him by Letitia James, who ran promising to get Donald Trump. Again, even Jake Tapper criticized the idea of a prosecutor running promising to get certain people when a prosecutor's job is to do justice. And you had the Fonnie Lewis lawsuit claiming that Donald Trump somehow engaged in some sort of illegality by asking the Secretary of State to fine me 11,000 votes. He didn't say steal them. He said make sure we haven't overlooked them or failed to count them. And then, of course, you had the lawsuit by Alvin Bragg, somehow, some way, claiming that the money paid to Stormy Daniels that was characterized as a legal expense somehow violated a federal law. Even people on MSNBC, on CNN, were going, I've never seen any kind of lawsuit along those lines. His home was raided. Biden had more documents in more places than did Donald Trump. But the special prosecutor said, well, Joe Biden is elderly man with a poor memory. There's no point in going after him. And the Trump lawsuit was finally dismissed. Imagine if those things had not happened and people focused on whether or not the economy was better or the borders better, or were you on track with national security? Were there no new wars under Donald Trump? Imagine where his approval rating would be. I still maintain that at some point it's going to hit 60 points.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.